and welcome to episode 11 of Map It Marketing, and thank you so much for listening in. Now, just before I jump in, I need to tell you that we are recording this as a video as well, and Sarah and I have discovered this new immersion type of video with Zoom where we've got a cool background. So if you hear us uproariously giggling through this session, it's because we've forgotten to look at each other the right way, or we've done a weird thing and it makes our hands look weird or something, but we have a nice backdrop and it looks like we're sitting at a table together, which is cool because we're not power of technology. So thank you so much for listening in today. Before we just jump in and introduce Sarah with you, I would like to encourage any of you to come along to our Facebook group, Map It Marketing. So in that group, you can ask questions about marketing and get support. It's one of my favorite places of the internet, and I'd love you to join me. But enough of that. Our guest today is Sarahh Primrose. I've introduced her in the introduction. She is one of my favorite people. She is the sunshiniest person I know, which I've already said a couple of times in the introduction, but I'm just laying it in thick. So now she has to smile because I said that. So I thought I'd start off with just asking Sarah, what is Primrose and Co, and how did it start, and why did you start it?
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Rachel.
You're
it's
welcome.
such an so Primrose and Co basically started because I was having a big, massive shift of my values. So, basically Primrose and Co is about putting nature first. So we put nature at the heart of our decisions and the environment. Sorry.
That's okay. It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're so chatty until we turn on the microphone, and then you're like, I don't want to listen to you. It's so serious. I'm serious because I'm writing notes.
Okay, cool. So we basically...
I'll start you off then. So you said nature is the heart of your decisions, and had you owned a business before?
No, we hadn't owned a business before. I had run lots of businesses in terms of cafes and restaurants and things. So I've got a hospitality background. So this was a big shift in terms of making products to take to the market. But it basically just started off as a hobby for me. And it was because we were looking at creating change in our own home and reducing waste and using natural products and reading the ingredients on the back of products. And, so Primrose and Co basically started to reduce waste, and chemicals in our home.
And it has changed a lot, eh? Like I said in the intro, the one that you haven't heard yet, that I've known you for a long time and seen this business go from this tiny little hobby business to a really amazing, thriving small business. And originally it was just beeswax wraps, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we started off with beeswax. We did make a few natural products, and in the back of my mind, we were going to be doing that. We just wanted to see what the reaction would be, because at the time when we started doing the beeswax and doing all these alternative weird products, people kind of thought I'd lost my mind and what was wrong with Sarah? Why has she left this big corporate job in the city and, quit her job and started making all these weird hippie products?
You were having a crisis, right?
Hey Sarah, what's going on? It was, and it's evolved like over time immensely, and it continues to evolve. We're continuously tweaking and changing and growing, so it's really exciting.
Because you've got like lots of, like, I call myself a career octopus. I've had lots of different backgrounds, and you're kind of like that too, aren't you? You've had lots of different things that you've done, and this is a combination, isn't it, of all those other things and then tying it to a passion. Would that be right?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a qualified chef by trade, but I've always been very artistic and creative and love design and things. So, creating food as a form of art. Basically, in terms of food and being a chef, I was also into sustainability in terms of food and things. So, making decisions like to not eat tuna. We don't eat fish unless we catch it ourselves. So just making conscious decisions every day to help the planet. Yeah.
So, because one of the things that you said in the notes, which I didn't put in the intro, which I thought was really interesting and a gutsy move, is you have actually done all your own design in terms of your branding, your packaging, all that stuff has actually been, you're getting people to make stuff, but it's all been your design, hasn't it?
Yeah, so well, when we first started, we started as Primrose Bees Wrap. We are now Primrose and Co. So we decided to make that transition last year in lockdown. And it was a good time, I think, to change as well, because people only recognised us with the Bees Wrap name, even though we have, from the get-go, we have also had natural products as well. But yeah, I do all of my own design. I have had a friend right at the beginning who helped me with the Primrose logo, which took actually quite a long time. It took nearly 2 months just to get our logo.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was constantly changing. Like we had about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 different options or styles for Primrose and Co, or Primrose Bees Wrap at the time. But yeah, so now I love to have control over everything. We're constantly tweaking things as well. And it also just gives us more flexibility to be able to change and alter things as we need. Yeah.
So I've got a question, and this is like gone totally left field. I haven't prepared you for this. Sorry, Sarah. But I have been following this guy on TikTok who's launching his own beauty brand, and it's a skincare brand. And he was costing out how much it's costing him before he even launches to get his brand together. And he has said, and this is like getting the branding right, getting his samples, because he's obviously not making his stuff and all these sort of things. And he said, we're doing this completely bootstrapped, lower cost, and so far it's cost us $30,000.
Oh my gosh.
That has been similar to you, or would yours have been a lot cheaper than that?
We literally probably only started with like $2,000.
Yeah, okay, so that's the thing, right? So like there are, when people say that stuff, it freaks people out, but there's lots of different ways to enter a market, isn't there? Like a not a market of the markets, but the business market.
Yeah, and so we started with me printing all my own labels at home on Avery labels.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's really like we've definitely altered and made things a lot better as we've grown. I design my own labels now, and we get them printed by a professional printer, which is so much easier.
How nice is that?
Using a guillotine to like cut every single label, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, I've got another client actually, and she does them, prints them on A4 and then guillotines them up, and then so it's a big job. So, I mean, I think that's amazing. And you did start at markets, didn't you? You still do quite a lot of markets. I think I said in the intro that I suspect you quite like them because you are an extrovert and you like having that conversational time as well.
Yeah, and going to the markets, it's like going and seeing your family every week or every couple of weeks, depending on which market you're going to as well. It's been probably one of the best things for us, networking as well, especially with other small businesses, and finding out what other people are doing. That's how we found out about you as well.
Thanks.
Yes. We go to the Mangawhai Tavern market every Saturday. So that's the first market that we ever did. And the first market, I think we did $600, and I was just so over the moon. We were so excited.
Exciting.
And we didn't have costs or anything. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really exciting at the time. Because you question yourself so much when you put yourself out there and you're like, is this going to work? Are people going to like my products? Is it going to be something that's viable? Yeah.
So what about the limitations of markets? Because you enjoy them and you do love that buzz. But when we worked together a little bit last year and we talked about this, we realized that the growth was limited by having to be at markets to sell and constantly do that. What were some of the limitations you found from just being at markets?
So yeah, definitely like limitations would be you have to, if you want to go to markets, you really need to dedicate your time to doing them.
Yeah.
We've nearly been going, or in October we'll be 3 years old, the business. So every weekend for nearly 3 years we've been doing markets. So yeah, you're giving up, events on weekends that you might be spending time with family and friends, just because you're trying to get that cash flow happening. You're trying to get your brand out there. COVID was massive, a massive limitation, not being that contact anymore and being in lockdown. So, and then that cash flow just stopping.
Yeah, huge, right?
Massive. And then that's exactly the reason why we're like, okay, we need to look at other alternatives of cash flow as well as online sales. Yeah.
Because it is a scary thing, isn't it? Because it's doing markets is amazing, but you can get stuck in this treadmill because you're having to show up to do it all the time. It is you doing it. And I imagine when you were doing those markets, you weren't going, oh, great. So I spent 4 hours packing the car and I spent 3 hours doing this and I spent 3 hours at the market. So now I should get paid this amount of money. You weren't factoring those costs necessarily in, were you, when you're doing it, or you were?
Not so much time, like in terms of packing cars or anything, no. The cost of display and things like that, yes, we have. But yeah, apart from that, it is a lot of time to be doing markets and expos and things.
And one of the things that I know we talked about last year when we were talking about your business was one of the big things you had to do was change your pricing structure, wasn't it, to prepare for growth? Your market price, it's easy when you're manufacturing to set this price, but when you're wanting to sell wholesale, there's another set of play, isn't there?
Yeah, so we did. We had to change our pricing, and that was like a big shock to the system.
There was a few tensions around that too, wasn't there? Like it felt weird. Yeah. Did it feel weird?
Yeah, I felt so lost, and I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like it almost put me on pause. Like I felt like I just stopped and I didn't know really, because I don't know, it just seemed so foreign. But I think it was also because there's the perception of what someone will buy at a market and then what people will buy in a shop or in a store.
I saw someone yesterday on Facebook. She said, oh, it's time for me to close the shopping cart now. And it was, I don't know what brand it was, but it was a bath mat and it was $534.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, listen, if there's a bath mat out there that can be bought for $534, I'm pretty sure most of my clients can put their prices up.
Oh my gosh, it must be magic and you must never have to wash it.
It's an Aladdin carpet. When you stand on it, you go to a magical universe where everyone loves your TikTok videos and people buy your products. It cleans the bathroom after you've had the shower. That would be a magic bath mat, I reckon. Oh, so I do think that does make it really hard. And I know that you have had to do some big steps in backing yourself. I totally know the value of you, and I feel like you're a great cheerleader for yourself. And we don't normally do this, but you did mention in the bio, which I added in the introduction, that you live on this beautiful property with your partner, Scott. How important has it been for you to have that support structure and other support structures around you to keep on pushing forward with this for you?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to do it without Scott. He is my superhero. So, and he is also, that's another limitation in terms of going to markets is, he's working and holding the fort while I'm out at markets, and then sometimes he's out at markets as well. So, I wouldn't be able to do it without him. And also my family, Andrea, my sister, she's amazing, and my other sister and my parents are such a big support, as well as friends as well. And they believe in what I'm doing, which is amazing. So I'm so grateful for them.
So they don't think you're too kooky for going in the whole good life, back to basics.
Oh, like moving to Wellsford?
Yeah.
I grew up on a farm.
Oh, okay, so they're okay with it.
Yeah. And I'm from Northland.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome. I'm not judging you on it. I'm just saying, it is because I do think we forget often with small businesses to push yourself and back yourself. There is a step where you've got to take a risk, but the risk isn't just yours when you're in a relationship with someone.
Yeah, and Scott had been saying to me for years beforehand, he's like, we just need to bottle a little bit of Sarahh and put it on the market. And we didn't know if it was going to be a food product.
Nice.
We didn't know if it would be a cafe. We didn't know what it would be. It's just kind of grown really since we moved to the property as well, because I love sustainability. I love growing flowers and vegetables and fruit and all that type of thing. I love knowing every single process to how the final product is made. So, yeah.
I think that's amazing. So I know that you've had that support, but is there like limiting beliefs or things that you've had to jump over to get to where you are now in terms of things like, were there things that you had to, that were confronting, that you had to kind of walk yourself through? And
heaps.
All right, we've got room for a couple, I reckon.
So many limiting beliefs.
So many, it's so hard.
Even just starting the business in the first place. Like so much self-doubt, and when you've got people saying, oh, have you turned into a hippie? Like, why are you making these products? Oh, it's just a hobby. And people still think it's just a hobby. But yeah, I think Scott and I are really into, self-development. And we went to a seminar in Australia. And it was actually there that I was like, okay, I'm ready to do this. It was just, I had kind of got to that level of procrastinating so much. I was like, if I don't do it, I'm going to hate myself. Yeah. So it was actually the thought of not doing it.
Yeah.
That pushed me to do it.
That's normally my thing. Normally normally my thing is I watch someone else who's doing what I know I'm meant to do, and I get really angry with them and judgy for about a day. And then I go, oh no, it's not judgment. It's because I know I'm meant to do that. And then I feel really awkward that I was grumpy with them. And then I feel grumpy at myself. And then I do it.
Yeah.
That's the process.
Yeah.
I love that. And I was just going to say, like, I do think, because I've got a cheerleader too with my husband Rod, who owns Identify with me, and I do know that, like, when we originally started, Rob wasn't in the business, and I know probably for you guys at some point Scott might come and be part of your business full time potentially. Would that be a potential without him outing and making him quit?
You would have to get to quite a much bigger level to be able to do that. But yeah, we're growing quite rapidly at the moment, which is really exciting. We've just started building our own cabin studio to move the business out of the house into its own location. So that's really exciting. Yeah. Yeah,
I've been lucky to see the sneaky peek of the plans, and I got very excited about it.
I know. So excited.
It's so cool. So how did you know you were ready to go, besides the fact that COVID happened, which kind of pushed you into that selling online thing and made you take that jump? You'd actually taken a jump before that, because we had talked about us working with you before COVID happened. So you'd been planning it for a while anyway. But how did you know you were ready? Was it just that COVID made you be ready to go to that kind of wholesale mark? Or was there something where you went, I can't sustain this the way I want it? Or was it just a leap of faith?
Well, we have known that how we want to grow. We just it's just the funds really. So we'd been work with you for an entire year before we actually even started working with you, and that was like my top goal was to work with Identify Marketing and Rachel Klaver, because we'd been to Map It, and I was.
This wasn't planned, by the way. This wasn't like a
putting my hand up constantly. The answer. So Map It was awesome, and it was the first time I think I was just like, oh my gosh, this lady gets what it is to have a business and how it is, so I was just like,
moving on. Anyway, besides that.
Okay.
Besides me.
So making a transition to doing wholesale. We have done wholesale since we started, but we haven't kind of really pushed it that hard, because our focus has been doing markets. So I think we had been approached by the gift fair previously, which is a big trade show basically for retail stores and customers, and it's quite a big outspend initially to have a site at this big expo. Yeah, and it's probably one of the scariest things that we've done, but we were like, well, we just need to do it. You know, even if we don't make any sales, at least we're getting our brand out there. At least people are seeing us and interacting with us and learning about our story and who we are. Yeah, and it just paid off so well. It's been quite a blur the last kind of like 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I've really loved it. I do know that I've watched you go from the bees wraps and having a really lovely market brand, which is a different thing. You know, if you're going to just do markets, which is nothing wrong with just doing markets, there is that kind of level to going, hang on a minute, I want to do this, and starting to test the waters around how that looks like, and then suddenly going, oh, that's great for me doing this in markets and taking it seriously or selling online myself. But here's the next step, which is how do I make it so that shops could have it in a display unit, or how do I make it so that there's barcodes? I know we had that conversation. You got a big order and you're like, yeah, I have barcodes.
Yeah,
did you have barcodes at that point, Sarah?
No, we just winged it.
You have barcodes now.
We do, yeah. So that was a big learning curve. We got approached by quite a big customer, and they said, oh, great. You know, can we set up an account? Can you please send us an initial order that you think we should order? And do you have barcodes? And I was like, yep, cool, we can do all that. And yes, we do have barcodes. And so I quickly went onto the NZ Barcode website and looked at buying barcodes, which were $25 each, I think.
Yeah, it's a big thing, right?
Yeah. And when I counted how many SKUs of products we have, we've got like nearly 100 or over 100 SKUs of products. So I had to buy a bundle of 100 barcodes, which actually dropped the price down to like $8.25 per barcode, which is great.
Which is pretty good, right? Like that makes it better. But it is, those are things you often don't think about, right?
Yeah. And that was another kind of initial spend. It's like, that's another thing that you're spending that you don't know if you're going to get that money back or how quickly you're going to get that money back, but you know you need to do it and invest that into your product and your brand. Yeah, so
it's huge. Now I've actually got I've gone off the plan. I've got a slightly controversial question I want to ask you. So we've had this conversation, and it's a conversation I've had with other clients as well. You are very generous in sharing, and I obviously have this too, where when you're sharing excitement and ideas about things, and you're sharing what you're doing and how you're doing things, and you want to be supportive of other businesses in your environment and things like that. So you can give a certain amount, but you still, like, you've had, similar to me, but in a different framework, had people say, can you tell me exactly who your supplier of such and such is, or how are you doing exactly this? And a lot of that stuff that you've spent hours and hours creating, developing, like, how has that been? Like, how have you struggled with that a little bit? Like, have you struggled about what to say or how to say it? How do you reply back to people like that?
Yeah, massively. So
it's hard.
Yeah, with you. Yeah, so I love working and collaborating with people and sharing knowledge and growing and all that type of thing. I remember saying to you that I just feel like people want all this knowledge from me, but I'm having conflicting feelings of I've worked so hard for all what we've created, and I kind of feel like people just want knowledge or information.
They want it given to them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, you know, I've been given out knowledge and helped some people with their businesses as well, you know, in terms of like creating logos and that type of thing. But when it gets to the point of, I think maybe IP, which is what you said, like we need to protect that. Because we have, you know, like some of the things that we've been working on could be months, or maybe it was a year that you were working on that to find out that piece of information, or you've invested money and knowledge. So, yeah.
And it's hard because there's this whole movement around collaboration, not competition. And I'm 100% believer in collaboration, not competition. But there are sometimes lines where someone asks me something where I feel this kind of pull of, whoa, hang on a minute. I feel uncomfortable about that because that's the stuff that someone would pay me for, or it's something that is part of my secret goodness that I would want to share with someone who pay. If I give that to you for free, then all these people who are paying for this product or, product for you or service for me, they won't, they're not getting it, And I think it's a hard line.
Yeah, it is. It's really difficult to know, and also how to respond as well. Like if you're asked on the spot.
Without sounding like a bitch.
Yeah, you don't want to sound like a bitch. And I'm as well, so it's a fiery, gingery bitch.
Yeah. Oh, mine's just being a menopausal one, I reckon. Very menopausal one. Oh, yeah, she's hormonal. Do you like? It's interesting. Maybe I should try doing. There's a TikTok thing at the moment, which is like a do secret spy thing, and maybe I should just say I'm a secret spy, and then that would be it. And they'd go, she's a weirdo, and she's not told me, but I'll laugh awkwardly, and then it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Sort of that. But it is hard. It is really hard. Now, the other thing I want to ask you about is, and we had a bit of a laugh last year because we set up Sarah's Facebook ads, and she is amazing. She has periods where she is amazing at her marketing, but it is hard to do the marketing consistently when everything else is going on. Would that be one of the things you'd say as someone who does everything yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is hard, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I do have a funny story that I'm going to totally out Sarah with, because it's something I teach people, and I often bring you up. I don't always identify who you are, but I'm totally going to do it now. You shouldn't have come on the podcast. But we talked last year, we had this thing, we'd set these ads up and they were performing really well, and they suddenly dropped, and we're like, what's going on? And then we realized that Sarah wasn't posting anything on social media. And the reason I think this is really important is we talked about this in episode 9 with Joe, is that it's so important to make sure that your marketing is consistent. And that's a really hard thing to do if you are the marketer, the admin person, the creator, the manufacturer, the producer, the everything, isn't it, Sarah?
Yeah, definitely. And that was my bad.
No, it's totally fine. It was just a misunderstanding, right? But you do like, people say, oh my gosh, I love the way that your posts are. Like, you have done a really good job of that branding. You have gone and got proper photos and things done though, haven't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. We've invested in photography and video as well. And I've also bought my own camera as well, so I can create my own content as well. Yeah, definitely. It's so important.
And you have a TikTok account, but I haven't seen you do a lot of posting yet.
No, I know. I saw your one this morning actually, and I was like, oh man.
I feel like I should start doing one where I'm just outing other people who haven't been on TikTok. That would be funny.
I asked you about TikTok 2 years ago, and I was like, something we should do, and you're like, maybe not just yet.
I think the thing with TikTok, which I find is fascinating, as someone who was like, is if you're doing reels, like if you're doing those on Instagram, you may as well put them on TikTok as well. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just, if you're going to put video in one place, you may as well pop it on. And you've actually got quite a lot of video content that you could actually just multi-purpose for TikTok with sounds, and then,
post it over. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and that would make it easy. I think that's one of the things with marketing. It's really important to find ways to make this presence easy without putting too much load on yourself.
Yes. Yeah, we repurpose a lot of our content as well, and I think that's one of the things that we've learned from you is repurposing content that you have, and then just slightly changing it, but also adding value at the same time. So, and
we're mentally sustainable of you, Sarah. So, but you do repurpose it, right? You just change things. You might use the same video, but put a different voiceover or different captions to it.
Yeah, different captions, or sometimes I edit videos. So like videos done by someone else. I'm using an app called Splice, where I can go in and edit it, or I can create a video, obviously just using photos. And then you can add sounds over the top. Like I did a video the other day of the bee bombs, which we started this fire with.
Yes, this fake fire in the background. So tell us just a little bit about the bee bombs, because so I'm going to tell my story about the bee bombs. So I last year decided I wanted to get my all my family presents from my clients. So I paid for them, like I paid for everything. But I bought bee bombs from Sarah, and I was so excited. And I bought them early. I like to get my Christmas presents early, and I put them in my walk-in wardrobe. And then one day I came home, and there were just like little bits of honey scented fabric all over my bedroom. and my black Labrador loves the smell of the honey and had eaten the entire container plus all the chocolate that I'd also bought for everybody. Sick Labrador, but and then, you know, we could tell it was him because he got 3 dogs because of the evidence several days later, which I won't go into. But he did love the bee bombs.
Yeah, well, lucky there was evidence.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. So, but what is a bee bomb?
Wasn't an expensive vet bill.
Yeah, it wasn't an expensive vet bill, thankfully. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is a bee bomb?
Oh, the bee bombs. All right. So they are natural fire starters, and they're made with the discarded offcuts of our beeswax. So it's a byproduct that we've turned into another product. Yeah. So, and they make amazing fire starters. So each bee bomb burns for 15 minutes, and they're all natural, like no chemicals or anything. So they're waterproof as well. So they're great for camping or hiking and outdoors and things. Yeah. Yeah, those are the bee bombs.
Awesome. So tell me some things that you, because you've got quite a range of products. Like I have actually today, you can't, those of you that are watching the video, you can't tell, but I've got one of your products, which is one of my favorite of Sarah's products, which is her, I think I'm going to say it wrong, hydrochloric acid?
Hyaluronic.
Hydrochloric is not good, right? Hyaluronic. Hydrochloric, I think, would burn my face off. Hyaluronic?
Hyaluronic, yeah.
Yeah, hyaluronic acid. Hydrochloric, I think, would like burn everything off. Yeah, not the right one. Hyaluronic acid, and it's this really cool little serum that I put on my face, and it makes me feel great. I'm very poor at remembering to put things on, so I've become addicted to that. Plus her rose hip. I love the rose hip oil at night too. It's very soothing and gentle, nice
oil. Yeah.
So I use Sarah's products, and I really love them. But in terms of like your whole brand, if you could look back now, do you feel like you've made the leaps at the right times? Do you have regrets over things that you've done in the past? Is there anything that you kind of feel that you've learned that you feel, oh, I wish I'd known that back then?
Yeah, I wish we had probably maybe invested in like marketing a little bit earlier, but it's hard to say that because at the time it's
impossible,
funding.
Right?
Yeah, so I don't have that regret. I probably do regret maybe not putting myself out there for wholesale a little bit earlier, I would say. And that, I think, that's definitely a fair thing that I've had. But also, you know, thinking that the brand wasn't quite there, wasn't quite ready. And then COVID hit and people weren't wanting to stock products in their shops anymore. So, but yeah, since New Zealand's been back and open, it's just been so much support for New Zealand businesses. It's been amazing. Yeah, so
But you've got a stockist in Japan, haven't you?
Yeah, and we actually met her at the markets.
Oh, that's so cool. So did that give you a boost when she chose some of your products to stock in Japan? Was that one of the things that made you start really seeing your product from the eyes of someone else?
Yeah, so we actually helped set up her business.
Cool.
Yeah, so she was like, oh, I'd really like to stock these types of products in Japan, you know, and introduce environmentally friendly and eco type products to Japan because there's not really that many around at the moment. And so I said, okay, cool. Well, do you need help? And so we designed her logo and helped her kind of set up this. And she did like a Kickstarter kind of crowdfunding before she could start her business in Japan. So she bought some of our products, our beeswax, and then did some funding, and it exceeded what she hoped. And then she was able to start her business. So awesome. We were like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Like seeing her grow as well as helping us grow at the same time. So
that is amazing. So tell me, if people want to find your products, where would they find them online? Like I know you've obviously got stockists, and I actually work with a couple of your your stockists as clients as well, so I know a few of those. But if people were trying to find you, where would they come and do that?
So we have got our website, which is primroseandco.co.nz, and that's our online store. And then we also do the Mangawhai Tavern markets most Saturdays, and we do general collectives, we do expo like the Go Green Expo.
Oh, and I've got an important question because we have quite a few listeners from Australia and actually other parts of the world. Do you ship your products out of New Zealand?
Yes, we do. So currently we ship to Australia, and and we're working on global. So
perfect. Perfect. But of course, if someone's listening and wants to have be a distributor for your products, you'd be open to having a chat about that too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
may as well.
Well, I think we actually, like last year, we had our first order from America, which was amazing. So yeah, we can.
That's exciting. Awesome. So thank you so much, Sarahh, for being a part of today, and thank you for sharing your journey. I find it really fascinating to go through the fact that you've started from this small market space and showing that you don't have to have masses of money to start a business and then go to that growth, which I know you're now really excited about.
Yeah, well, definitely you don't have to have money at all. You just have to have an idea and believe and take that leap of faith and throw your heart at it. So, and it needs to be something that you believe in as well, because you definitely have doubts, at times, and you're like, why am I doing this? And you need to remember why you're doing it, because that makes you have a bit more faith and, belief in yourself.
Now, just before we go, I want you to, because I did say that you have a menagerie of dogs and cats. Can you just run us down? Because it's very important. At the end of the podcast, I do like a little outro where I go through some sort of marketing applications that people can take from the podcast. But let's just talk about the pets. So just give us a rundown quickly.
Okay. So we have a ex-race hound, retired race hound. His name's Bentley. He's our big, beautiful Bentley. We've got Roxy. She's a whippet. And then we've got Loki, who's our little grey cat. And then we've got sheep and chickens as well.
I did mention them in the intro.
Yeah, names like lamb chop number 2.
Those that sound like delicious names. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing more about your exciting endeavors as you grow.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, Rachel.